Welcome to Have History Will Travel. I am your host, the Wilder Historian. Did you learn in school that people in the Middle Ages believed you could sail off the edge of the earth? And that Christopher Columbus overcame the archaic ideas of Europe that the earth was flat by sailing to the Americas? That belief still persists in our world because of a neglect of primary sources by 19th century historians. So in this video, I will be diving into the consensus between scientists, mathematicians, and philosophers about the shape of the earth in the centuries before Columbus left Spain with 3 ships. Jeffrey Burton Russell, in his book Inventing the Flat Earth, Columbus and Modern Historians, is a critical look at the historians who used limited sources to highlight medieval Europe as believers in a flat earth. Russell found only 5 authors between the beginning of the Common Era until 1492 that promoted the idea that the earth was flat. Lactantius, who lived between 245 and 325 AD, was who many historians in the 1800s used to support the claim. Washington Irving, a famous 19th century author, used Lactantius as a main source and portrayed him and his ideas as representative of people before the Age of Discovery believing in a flat earth. The mission for propagating this idea was to draw a distinct line between the past and the present by depicting the people of the past as ignorant and scientifically illiterate compared to the modern people. Historian Stephen D. Sargent explained that the idea of a flat earth came from attempts to define the modern era by asserting the ignorance of earlier ages gives rise to fallacies like the flat earth. Such fallacies or myths then take on a life of their own, creating a distorted image of the past. The antidote, says Russell, is skepticism and respect for the sources, and a willingness to challenge our own intellectual assumptions. The naval historian Samuel Eliot Morison said, "No flat earth theory, certainly. For all of the vulgar errors connected with Columbus, the most persistent and the most absurd is that he had to convince people the world was round. Every educated man in his day believed the world to be a sphere. Every European university, so taught geography and seamen, knew perfectly well that the surface of the globe was curved." Historian Leslie Carmack, in her essay located in the book Newton's Apple and Other Myths About Science, put it beautifully when she wrote, "But the reality is more complex than either of these stories. Very few people throughout the Middle Ages believed that the world was flat. Thinkers on both sides of the question were Christians, Roman Catholic, or Eastern Orthodox, and for them the shape of the earth did not equate with progressive or traditionalist views. It is true that most clerics were more concerned with salvation than the shape of the earth. That was their job after all. But God's work and nature were important to them as well. Columbus could not have proved that the world was round, because this fact was already known. Nor was he a rebellious modern. A transformation was taking place in 15th century views of the earth, but it had more to do with a new way of mapping than with a move from the flat earth to the sphere. So what was the reality of people's geographical knowledge in the past? Going back to the mid-300s BCE, with Aristotle, the Greeks believed the earth to be a sphere, as well as the Romans. Those ancient philosophers and historians, including Pliny the Elder, Eratosthenes, and Claudius Ptolemy, calculated the earth to be a sphere. Their conclusions were in part philosophical. A spherical universe required a sphere in the middle, but were also based on mathematical and astronomical reasoning. Most famous was Aristotle's proof of the sphericity of the earth, an argument used by many thinkers in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. Some of the best scientific minds and theologians of the Middle Ages believed in a spherical earth. Included in that number is St. Augustine of Hippo in the 5th century and Roger Bacon of the 13th century. The one medieval author whose work has sometimes been interpreted to demonstrate belief in a disc-shaped rather than a spherical earth is Isidore of Seville. Although he was explicit about the spherical shape of the universe, historians have remained divided on his portrayal of the shape of the earth itself. He claimed that everyone experienced the size and heat of the sun in the same manner, which could be interpreted to mean that the sunrise was seen at the same moment by all of Earth's inhabitants, and therefore the Earth was flat, but that statement it more likely implies that the sun's shape did not alter as it progressed around the Earth. Most of his physics and astronomy can only be understood to depend on a spherical Earth, as does his interpretation of lunar eclipses. While it is not necessary to insist on absolute consistency, it does seem that Isidore's cosmology is consistent only with a spherical Earth. Even Geoffrey Chaucer, the famous author, spoke of this wide world which men see is round. Carmack also states that the one group of medieval writers who explicitly denied the sphericity of the Earth came from the Antioch school of theology. Best known was Cosmas, a 6th century Byzantine monk who may have been influenced by contemporary Jewish and Eastern flat earth traditions. Cosmas developed a scripturally based cosmology with the Earth as a tableland, or a plateau, placed at the bottom of the universe. It is hard to know how influential he was during his lifetime. Only 2 copies of his treatise exist today, one of which may have been Cosmas' personal copy, and only one man in the Middle Ages is known to have read his work, Photius of Constantinople, widely regarded as the best-read man of his age. In the absence of positive evidence, we cannot use Cosmas to argue that the Christian Church suppressed knowledge of the rotundity of the Earth. Cosmas' work merely indicates that the early medieval scholarly climate was open to debates on the subject. Now let's go back to Columbus. We've established that he did not go to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella and argue that the Earth was round, because that fact had already been established and accepted. However, he did make an argument to the monarch. He opposed the beliefs of the cleric of Salamanca, the home of Spain's leading university, that the Earth was as large as people believed. Columbus argued that the Earth was significantly smaller than believed, so much so that it would be quicker and shorter to go west around the world to India than to go around the continent of Africa. He was wrong about the size, but he and his men were not concerned about falling off the edge of the Earth. The sailors on the voyage were concerned that the world was larger than Columbus had calculated, which they were correct. I hope this clarified the beliefs that circulated around the medieval period and the real argument that Columbus put forward when he proposed his journey. Thank you all so much for watching. Please subscribe to be notified when new videos come out, and share the videos to get the word out about the channel. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.